right, then it's all questions all the time week.
Well, we didn't. But we didn't.
But we're going live. It's too late.
All right.
I mean, if no one shows up with questions, then we can just.
Well, but let's
tweet it.
I would like to do a thing where we also like take advanced questions and pick out some top ones and all that.
Through what mechanism?
Let's do YouTube. I'm going to send it to YouTube.
Okay. I mean,
That's the only place to go.
You tweeted, Hansman?
At this exact second, there is. But what I'm saying is, if we said, "Hey, next week we're going to do or 2 weeks from now, we could do like a little survey thing and vote them up and down."
We could totally do that. You're right. We've already tweeted it though.
Tweeted.
And I tweeted it's all questions and it's Ask John Anything week.
Excellent. Ask me anything week.
Yes, it's only for questions about John. Just like your life and
right.
Just stuff.
I could show you something I 3D printed. No, I'm kidding.
Ouch.
I do have some. No, I have something over here. It was a 3D hermit crab shell. It's over here somewhere.
Really?
Supports, yeah.
That was riveting.
That's all. Yeah, thank you.
You should show us more stuff you 3D printed.
Yeah.
I'm 3D printing a bunch of stuff. I'm living the dream.
I got my T-shirt.
Did you 3D print it?
No. I bought a SpaceX T-shirt.
Ah, nice.
Finally. I couldn't watch another launch without being like brought to tears, so I had to go buy. I know you got like a rocket fairing. Did you ever use it, or is it still in the box in the shelf behind you?
I do have it. I haven't got around to it yet because it's wet.
It is so wet.
I can't. It's like bad.
This is 7 years in to me living here, and now I'm like, okay, this is the middle of March, and it's still raining every single day.
As I say every year, and I will because my dad is 70 and now still says this, that summer in Portland was the best week of my life.
It is 89 degrees here.
Okay, John, you don't get.
Are you freaking kidding me?
No.
You don't get to
it should be like it's snowing everywhere on the East Coast.
John, tell me exactly where you live. Let's dock you on there. Right?
They said it was going to. Did you hear about this? They said that there was going to be a blizzard and it was going to be like 15 million people.
They always do that.
You know what it is? It turns out it was all like not real.
Was it a foot of snow?
It was flake news.
I saw that. Yes.
So good. All
Let's get on with the show.
I 3D printed this. It's amazing. All right.
You need a Tumblr of stuff you 3D printed. That's amazing.
All right. Let's talk about stuff today.
Okay.
First question, a very important question. How is my Zelda progress?
How is your Zelda progress?
Right now, I am doing pretty well. I just got the white horse.
Mm-hmm. Is there more than one horse?
Was that really a question, or was that one?
Was. It's someone else.
That was an actual question. First and most important question.
The actual first question.
John.
Actually, I'm deleting that question.
And then after that, it was when is it starting?
There's my number of hearts. I have 13 hearts.
Is that a lot?
I've removed the question and blocked the user.
It's more than 4. And it is still. My friend Omar Shaheen, the PM over on OneDrive, put it this way. He says, every day I think about going home and playing this game, and it brings me joy just to think about playing. And also, I love my children. But that sounds like
a new World of Warcraft. There's going to be some families broken.
It's almost like Pokemon for that first week until you realize you were an idiot walking around trying to catch Pokemon.
Scott, I realized that right the first minute I saw you walking around catching. Like, it didn't take me a week. I knew right.
Are you sure? It took you that long to realize I was an idiot for playing. I still play it regularly.
No,
Thank you.
My son every day is like, "What Pokemon did you catch?" I'm like, "Dude, I haven't opened it in like 5 weeks."
For me, it's like
the tufty wootsy doobie.
I tell people that it's just Fitbit with tiny monsters.
It is.
That justifies me walking around the neighborhood looking in people's backyards.
Okay, next question.
Next question.
When is it starting? Now. Why?
Next question. Why multiple watches?
Okay, so I have been meaning.
Hang on. Your audio sucks. Are you hearing this, John?
Yeah.
Your audio is all crusty. Like.
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
That's what your audio sounds like. Do me a favor. Stop doing that. That's one thing. Switch your audio between the two inputs for us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really bad.
All right, we'll take another question while we're waiting.
Okay, so he has 2 watches. He's weird. Scott's video is awesome. Thank you.
Here's a question.
Sorry, how's that?
There you go. Sounds much better.
Okay. Can I answer the question?
Second, there's 2 people who want to know about your watches. So now that's officially a top question.
I get that question every week on Twitter or in here. And I have been meaning to register why does Damian wear 2watches.com. Because there are many answers. One of them is because I have 2 wrists. The other,
you also have ankles, but you don't wear a watch.
You don't know.
Hello.
On the show in a while. This is a smartwatch. This is an Android Wear watch. Okay, this is a Huawei watch. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it's Huawei watch. This is a expensive watch. I'm a watch guy like you, Scott. We've talked about watches before. We both appreciate the fine engineering and whatnot of a watch. So I don't like to choose. I used to wear a Microsoft band on this thing, but after the 3rd one fell apart, I stopped. So I use this one for alerts and fitness tracking. I don't need any fitness tracking because I don't do anything, but it tells me how many steps. And this one I wear because it's beautiful. And so I wear both. And Tag Heuer released a new Android Wear watch today.
Do people stop you in the street and go,
people have stopped me in the hallways here and asked me, why do I had a meeting this morning and the guy asked me at the end of it, why are you wearing 2 watches? So,
well, I mean, I'm going to continue to judge you and find you wanting. But
okay, you wear a lot more things than I do. Granted, some of them keep you alive.
Some of them keep me vertical. But at the same time, I'm sitting here with a Nintendo Switch and a 3DS and trying to figure out if they both belong in my.
You wear a pager.
I wear a pager. Yeah, a pager that gives me life-saving drugs. But yes. Okay, so there's
Michael Stokesbury.
Michael Stokesbury. I have a question. Using old global.json, it was easy to debug and step into the ASP.NET Core code.
Yes.
How do we debug and step into that core code with the CS prod setup?
So
does global.json still work?
No. So there was a feature of DNX explicitly, and then the Project JSON-based .NET Core in RC2. In the SDK, the Project JSON-based SDK, you could set a projects property in your global JSON, which would be used by the .NET CLI for resolution. So that means when you say, I reference a thing called foo, it would determine whether it was a package or a project based on whether it could find the project, right, by places to search. So there was really kind of this this built-in ambiguity about references. Is it a package? Is it a project? It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out.
Magical
magic
and ambiguity that we all love very much.
We did like. So and the move back to MS Build, that didn't really line up very well with how we had to make that work in CS Proj. So we haven't forgotten about the scenario though. And so today, if you want to make that work right now, frankly, I don't know how to make it work. I believe it is possible through some magic incantation. You can do that. People do it in this, like through the wall in this room. There is a way to do it. It's nowhere near as simple as it was in the old
Who can I
world.
ask? And I'll do a temporary.
Ask Fowler or ask Pavel or
I'll ask. Okay, great.
Nate. But we still intend at some point to bring it back and make it easier. Hopefully, I don't have any promises as to when that will be.
Okay, but we appreciate the scenario because that was something that I thought was fundamental. I mean, because it seems like a package reference versus a project reference. Like we have different reference names.
We have different references, but I will say that even the different references we have today, we have knobs on them that let you kind of change their behavior to be more like one or the other because there is different behaviors between them. But specifically, if you just want to step through source code, obviously we've been able to do that without that feature in Project JSON forever through symbol source mapping and PDBs and da-da-da-da. There are ways to do that. Explicitly, what the advantage was that you could clone the repo, get the actual source code locally, and then have it compiled as part of your project, like as part of your larger project, as opposed to just stepping through source with the debugger, which is is a related but orthogonal or discrete scenario. Anyway, so it's coming back. It's not as awesome as it was, but we hope to get back there again.
Yeah, I think that people forget though, like the benefits of like we took one step backwards, we turned a little bit, and then we're going down another road. Yeah. The benefits of .NET Standard though are myriad.
Well, and the CS Proj, like we've seen the benefits of the new CS Proj format, and like I think Nick Craver tweets every day, like the next project he has converted, like he's gone way out. Like he's not just doing .NET Core and .NET Standard projects; he's converting all of his projects that use CS Proj.
Let's have him on if he's lilistening.
We should. And
Nick Craver, come on the show.
Kind of leading that charge of going beyond what we've told people to do, which is I'm just going to use this new SDK-based CS Proj system for everything. And he's taking 200-line CS Projes down to like 12 lines because of what you can achieve with this new CS Proj format. So yeah, we've taken some steps back in some places, but we've taken giant leaps forward in others, and we'll continue to work on it. It's not done by any means. This is just the first version.
Cool.
We have, for people asking questions, someone proposed using a hashtag question at the beginning of your question.
It's one more thing to look
Nah,
up,
it makes
though.
it easy to scan.
Eh,
It's wonderful.
you say so.
Yeah. See, Kyle Summers, it jumps right out at you.
Well, let's get this. I want to answer this. Gilberto is saying he wants to use ASP.NET Core, and his system runs on Oracle, though.
There was an announcement about that this week.
There was an announcement on Oracle this week that they are going to support .NET Core on Oracle Linux.
That was one of my John Loves Community links.
Oh, then John will talk about that then.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, good. Now, Nirmal says that same global JSON is still supported, but that's supported for a different thing, right?
So global JSON had multiple properties in it, and one of them was this ability to map to projects. That part doesn't work anymore. There's only one property that is honored by global JSON right now, which is the SDK property, which is terribly named because all it does is let you choose the version of the CLI to use, not the version of the SDK that shows up in your CS proj in the property called SDK. All right, unfortunately. And we don't really anticipate that people will use that much moving forward. Its only purpose really right now is to enable you to pin a folder at a project JSON version of the CLI when you have both a project JSON CLI and a CS proj CLI installed on the same machine. That's really the sole purpose of using the global JSON today. Like if you want to deploy to Azure, they still have both versions. They still have a project JSON CLI like the RC2 and the Preview 2 and Preview 3, as well as the one we just released a couple of weeks ago. If you don't have a global JSON, it infers the latest one, which means you can't build your project if it's still project JSON. Okay, so you need to use a global JSON to tell it to use a specific version that did support global JSON. That's the only reason to use it now.
All right. Another question that I want to bang out because it's a simple one. I don't know how to pronounce the gentleman's name. Sjord Vandermeer says he can't find any good documentation on Roslyn analyzers. Talk to Casey Illenhoot. I will get you her Twitter, and she can point you to its. Here we go. His name is SJORD. Talk to. There you go. Cool. So I put that. Casey Illenhoot. UHLENHUTH.
Cool.
All right. Blah blah blah.
Someone asked about ASP.NET Core 2, and is it 2?
Yes, a couple of questions. Like, are we talking about 2? What is 2? What's 2?
So that's now that we've shipped VS 2017 and the 1.0 SDK. We are working on 2. I think I've said that quite a few times on the show over the past couple of months. We haven't announced timelines or anything yet, although if you go on GitHub, you can kind of figure stuff out because most of the stuff's in the open. We haven't done a big splash about it. There is a roadmap on the .NET Core site. There's a much simpler roadmap on the ASP.NET Core site. I have it on my shoulders right now to go and update our roadmap with more meat, with more of the stuff we're actually working on. So yeah, we're working on it right now, and it will be this year. So it's not going to be a whole bunch of crazy features other than Razer Pages is probably the really big feature from ASP.NET Core's point of view. There's a replumbing of Kestrel as well under this new thing called system.io.pipelines. It will not itself ship in 2.0. It's going to be a private implementation detail of Kestrel for 2.0, and then it will ship later in the year as part of an update, like a 2.1, because that public API surface needs some more time to bake. But we have already successfully replumbed Kestrel on top of that, and we will be shipping that as a private implementation detail in 2.0. And I'm happy to say that all the charts I was tweeting over the past 2 weeks, we have now successfully reached the same level of performance of Kestrel on this new API as what we had in 1x, which was Kestrel on a custom API. Which is great because that means that this new low-level API, which will become public towards the end of the year, has all these great performance benefits for anyone who might want to use it for any purpose. So that's going on. And then there's a whole bunch of sort of smaller things. There's some small tag other things. We're doing some changes to Razer.
How close is the web pages thing?
That's Razer Pages.
Razer Pages, rather. Sorry.
2.0. Yeah, 2.0.
No, but how close is it? Like, is it prototype right now? Is it?
No, we did the prototype already. I showed it last year.
Yeah, but like I said, is there a daily? Is there anything I can play with? The reason I ask is that
MVC dailies contain it right now. I'm using it. So in fact, if you go up to github.com/Damian Edwards/Razer Pages sample, that is you can clone that and build it right now. And that is an app that's using nightlies of what will effectively be MVC Core 2, or ASP.NET Core MVC 2. That includes Razer Pages. Okay, if you go into the customers folder, you'll see I've got a couple of different folders there that represent different ways. Yeah, these all do the same thing. They just do them in a different way. So go to the separate page models. That's kind of the idiomatic way, and then go to index.cshtml. Oh, that's .cs, but yeah, there you go. So that's your Razer page. Look at the top. It says @page. It has a route after it to capture stuff from after that.
So something goes scanning for that, or that's
yeah. So Razer MVC now will discover CSHTML files that are prefixed with the @page directive, and they become pages. You can address them. They get added to the routing system.
So the reason that I'm asking you this is selfish. I'm working on some new stuff.
You want to use it.
So I'm working on some new stuff for Hansel Minutes.
I see.
And people should check this out, by the way. It's amazing. I don't know if you've seen this or not. See this here? I had this guy from Angular on. Check this out. See, it says beta transcript. Watch this. This is amazing.
Well, it was conceived of before I joined Google. I joined the Angular team directly when I came.
You see this?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane, right?
That's
so this is, this is a service. This is a startup that I'm working with some folks on. So look. They have a general sense of how, models get populated. It's freaking
automatic, right?
Well, it's 80% automatic, and then they tidy it up. And but their speech to text technology knows the difference between two speakers.
Wow.
Anyway, it's called Signal FM. They're amazing. You should check them out.
That's pretty cool.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing though is that I went back and I found my hanselminutes.com source code from 2011, right? And it is
web pages.
Web Pages.
Yeah, I remember.
It is Web Pages. It's got an app code folder. So I would need to convert Massive. Remember Massive? Yep. But this is it. It's a tiny little database, and a bunch of these. So if I go to like default, so the question was, would it be interesting to maybe you and I get on a call or a Google Hangout, and convert this and see how bad it is?
Yeah, but let me prefix that very, very early on, saying that we expressly set out not to build the next version of Web Pages. We wanted to build.
So of course, you called it Pages.
We called it Razer Pages. We wanted to build a page-based framework that uses the MVC primitives, which is not what Web Pages was. It was just fundamentally its own framework that was designed to compete with PHP. This is not that. This is actually the idiomatic approach to Razer Pages is to do model view model, so that you have effectively the code behind file is, if you saw in that the file that you opened from my site before, there was an app model declaration that pointed to a page model, and that's a class that has functionality. So like your page handlers are on that class, and they support model binding and validation, and they have properties on the class that you can bind to.
It's far more MVC-ish than PHP.
Far more MVC-ish.
Okay, and so the good thing though is my site is read-only, right? So it's all just R.
Yep.
So
it would not be a big effort to factor that better and port it over to Razer Pages.
And that said, while I recognize that it's not trying to be PHP, I recognize not a PHP compete. It's an MVC light or a different perspective on MVC.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's page focused.
A page focused MVC. Yeah. So I look at it as, I don't want to make my Hansel Minutes. My podcast is page focused.
Yes.
Like it is 5 pages and a couple of for loops.
Yeah, this website
MVC feels over the top.
Yes, Live ASP.NET's the same thing. It's 2 pages, a home page and an admin page.
I don't want a model of you and a controller. I just
don't need it. But I do want model binding, and I do want validation, and I do want some separation, and so it has all those things, and it has tag.
Super fun to do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. Let's do that. Blah 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 blah. System.io. We got to go faster. This is too slow.
Sorry.
System.io.pipelines.
Yes.
How's that doing? When's that going to be in the framework?
I just talked about that in the context of Kestrel. So Kestrel is replumbed on top of System.io pipelines. It will not be a public API in 2.0. It will be a public API in a subsequent release. So it is going, and it is going well. And we will ship on top of it, but you will not be able to consume it as a release product in the 2.0 timeframe. Obviously, there will be pre-releases at that point. SignalR will also be built on pipelines as well later in the year.
Okay, cool. Can we have someone from EF Core come on and talk to us about many-to-many relationships and why we don't have it yet?
So can we have someone come on and throw tomatoes at them about a specific issue? Sure, if we want to.
Well, this actually brings up the EF Core is a good person to have on, because there's on .NET there, the show that focuses mostly on .NET Core, and ASP.NET, which is us, the angle bracket and curly brace generating people who sit on top of it. We're all the same team, though. It would be interesting, and EF is used in both places. They would certainly be appropriate people to bring on, so we'll do that.
And we've done it before, right? We've had Rowan on before. He's on a different team now, but yeah.
Any plans to let tag helpers alter Razer generated code before it renders in the browser?
Oh, so yes, but not in 2.0. I'm just talking about
2.x.
I was just talking to someone about this on Twitter. This has been a long. We will get there. So currently,
wouldn't that be called web forms?
It was a feature that web forms had. Specifically, the feature was called control builders.
Right.
That enabled you to participate in code generation at the point the page/view was compiled, which is an incredibly advanced feature, obviously, because you're actually doing code spit. But it's incredibly powerful because you only pay that cost once rather than a runtime feature. Tag helpers are purely runtime right now. As a tag helper author, you can only affect what happens at runtime. And there's a cost associated with having a tag helper attached to an element, which is why we have the ability to say this tag helper only lights up on this element if these attributes are present, or if this attribute is here and it starts with this, or et cetera, et cetera. We have discussed what other features would be possible if tag helpers or something like tag helpers were able to participate in code generation. In fact, we have issues logged on it already. You can go and see some of the ideas we have, the things that we would enable. The classic one is if you wanted to build a for each tag helper, you can't do that without code generation, because you have to generate the local variable, the member variable that you then bind to inside your for each loop. Okay, tag helper would need to be able to emit an item variable. Just like in web forms, you would emit the data item variable inside the context of the web form control. That is not happening in 2.0. All right, it will. If it happens, it's going to happen after 2.0 at some point.
Cool. Oh wow, this is a big one. Okay, well, first, Peter Fowler, how do you developers set up your machines? I use Box Starter. Go into Google Box Starter.
I just do it manually.
Damian does it only by clicking, no hotkeys, just moving his mouse real slow.
I use mostly Chocolatey. I had a box starter script, but I realized I like to take rebuild as a chance to kind of reevaluate what I want.
Yeah, that's the thing that I do too. Is I tend to only rebuild when something drastic changes. But this machine, this is the brand new laptop we talked about a couple of times ago. I got it replaced, right? They sent me a brand new one while I had the first one, and so I had to do it twice in the space of 2 weeks. It took me a couple of hours.
It's funny. It used to take a full 8 hours.
Yeah.
That's not
now it's Windows. Get Visual Studio with 2017. It's
Node,
20
Office,
minutes.
Visual Studio.
Node, Office, Teams.
There's enough where I like to script it with Chocolatey. I mean, a lot of that stuff.
Starter, man.
I just do it on demand.
Adjust your camera again. You keep getting shorter, and
I'm shrinking.
You are shrinking.
I'm melting.
It's advanced age.
Yeah. Okay.
Any major architectural changes that we should freak out about? I added that part between ASP.NET Core 1 and 2.
Not architecturally.
There are change or move our cheese again.
No. There are some implementation details in .NET Core 2 under the covers about where certain components will come from. Today we ship a few components inside Microsoft.NET Core.app, like that folder, like Roslyn and libuv for reasons. And in the new world, in 2.0, we will have an alternate way of doing that. So we get the same benefits, like their cross-gen or their end-gen, so they start up faster, while adding other benefits. For example, in 2.0, the default experience will be you'll file new an ASP.NET Core 2.0 application. You'll have a single package reference, literally one package. It'll be called Microsoft.ASP.NET is the name we're going with right now. And that will bring in all of the API to do with ASP.NET Core that we have that this team ships. Now, before you scream, oh my God, you're going back to a monolith and that sounds very heavyweight. First of all, when you .NET run, it'll be faster because all of that stuff will be cross-gen / pre-jitted, whereas today, the only stuff that's pre-jitted on your development machine is the stuff that's actually in netcore.app in the shared framework. So that'll be good. And then when you publish, we're adding the first-class ability to trim stuff out of publish, out of your app, out of your package closure, based on where you're deploying to. Right? So if you're deploying to Azure, which will have in it already all of the stuff that we ship, okay, ASP.NET Core, EF Core, then you'll just say, hey, I'm publishing to Azure, and none of that stuff will appear in your output folder. So today, a file, new Hello World ASP.NET Core app, when you publish it, is about 10 megabytes on the output file. In .NET 2.0, if you're publishing to Azure, it'll be like 50 kilobytes, because the only DLL that will get published is your application DLL and any config files that you need. For MVC, obviously, you would publish the precompiled views by default. So you won't have any view files by default. It'll just be the precompiled views for a couple hundred kilobytes for that. And your application DLL includes your controllers and stuff, which are small, and any static files that you need to run your site. So we drastically reduced the size of the application for publishing as part of the new 2.0 experience. Plus, this feature isn't just special case to our environment. It'll be a first-class feature of .NET Core. So if you're on your own servers, you can choose to install whatever things into this special location on your server, and then you can knock those out during publish so that your own app, so you have some third-party NuGet package or some of your own NuGet packages, you can pre-install those on the machines on your servers and then knock them out during publish. You don't have to take them with you. While maintaining the ability to take in a newer version in your application and have that be deployed with your app and have that override what was on the server as well. So good stuff happening. Not an architectural change, but bringing new features along and may change the way applications look after you publish them by default.
Okay. This is a not helpful statement, and I will call this person out for making an unhelpful statement.
Okay.
Alejandro says, EF Core is a bloated mess. Just use Dapper with raw SQL. I would encourage you to use it without having to say that in a comment. If you don't like it, don't use it. That means just more for us.
Sure. EF Core supports direct SQL querying now as well, with the performance that is pretty good, I'm told. So you don't have to use change tracking. You don't have to use object mapping. You can just say, here's a query, please run it.
Yeah, you can use it as if it's Dapper-esque.
You can use it like it's Dapper, and it'll do the mapping back to your objects, but not do any of the change tracking. So.
Cool. Is there tooling for converting old CS Proj to new CS Proj? Because there's migrate for project.json, but to get to the new one, you don't.
We don't officially support taking traditional CS Proj and moving it to what's called the SDK-based CS Proj, which is what the .NET Core and .NET Standard library templates do in VS 2017 and .NET Core. That is not a goal yet. We want to get there eventually, but obviously MS Build and CS Proj has been around for many years and is used to build many different things, and we don't support all that stuff yet. So, but Nick is doing it anyway.
So after this call, if I ever get off this call, I'm going to go on a call with Mark Downey. He's Papa String on Twitter, and we're going to work on DOS Blog. We pair every couple weeks and work on DOS Blog. It's like 15 CS Proj classics, right?
Sure.
We could go and make each of those a .NET Standard library by making new ones and starting to drag source code in and chasing references down. And we could slowly build it, and then we'd see what missing parts are there.
If you just have code, like if literally the only thing in your CS project is CS files, it'll work. It's when you start doing things like, I have a XAML file in here because this is the library that has a WPF thing. Or regex files will work, but there are some advanced things. Regex files for full framework might not, because regex files on full framework support more things than regex files on .NET Standard and .NET Core. So it depends on what you do in that CS project.
Okay. Here's an odd question I don't understand. When are multi-target CS Proj files? Multi-target framework CS Proj will stop being clunky in UI per target framework.
Yeah, so we don't. So he's talking about what we call cross-targeting. So this is where you have in project.json, you would have frameworks and you would list 2 or 3 TFMs. In CS Proj, you set the target frameworks property instead of the target framework property. And it's a semicolon delimited set of TFMs to say I want to compile for Net Standard 1.3 and Net 4.6 and this portable PCL profile. There is no first-class support for that in Visual Studio. There's no GUI. There's no right mouse click on the properties to do that. Exactly what I just said.
For .NET Standard.
No. There is no first-class GUI for setting multiple target frameworks for new CS Proj. If you want to do that, you have to open the CS Proj file using the new feature that lets you open it while it's open in Visual Studio and manually type the TFMs in to the target frameworks property, and delete the target framework property. The GUI only lets you switch between different Net Standard versions and just one at a time.
I guess I don't understand then the multi-targeting stuff. I would just do .NET Standard, which...
Well, .NET Standard itself doesn't solve everything, because if you might have a library that you need to share between UWP and .NET Framework, and they support different versions of .NET Standard. So you might want to, rather than just picking the lowest and only having those features, you might want to target .NET Standard 1.0 and .NET Standard 1.5.
What would I do? I come in here and I would just make a class library .NET Core, or
do that. No. I mean, that's fine. We can do it. It's going to be the same difference. I want to show you the difference, though. If you had chosen .NET Standard, you would have got a slightly different. That's fine. It's not going to make any difference. So right mouse click, go Properties, and I'll show you why you can't do it here.
Okay.
So see where it says Target Framework?
Right.
All you can do is one.
Right.
Or that's all you can do. So close that, and then do Edit. Yes. And then you would change Target Framework to Target Frameworks. Like literally change the, and then change and semicolon delimit that. So net standard, so, and then put, whatever, yes. And now what happens is when you do build, it builds it multiple times, one for each of the things that you put in there.
Yeah, IntelliSense there would be magical.
Yeah, of course. So yes, it is not a first-class experience today to do cross-targeting in VS to the point that there's a UI and things. Once you've set it up in the CS Proj, it builds just fine. You can reference it across projects. It does the right thing. You can tick the thing to produce a package. It'll do the right thing. All that works. But there's because that is a somewhat less popular. It's a limited scenario. It's much more of an edge scenario than just I need to target one version of .NET Standard. Obviously,
that makes sense. Okay, that's very.
We haven't got to it yet. Obviously,
good
we
question.
Want to it.
So that's from Damage Boy.
Okay.
Good job. Good question. Excellent. What about ARM? How are we doing on ARM?
So there was a blog post recently from what's his face, John, in the community, Sullivan. No,
Allende?
No, not Allende. Allende did it himself.
I'm gonna have Allende's buddy.
Dude, are you riffing the BBC? Oh my goodness!
I should have had her do something. I even did the push away.
You even did the push away. That was great.
You just shove your child on.
I just canned her.
I hit the kid with the switch. Just right in the, just bonk him.
Now
in
the
head.
Baby's gonna come rolling in. You know, if my daughter had come in with the dance move, I would have let her.
They interviewed the family afterwards.
Yeah, it was
They
great.
interviewed the family.
Kids smushing.
They are normal humans.
They are normal humans. Anyway, what are we talking about?
ARM. We got to get this ARM.
So we now have builds being produced for Raspberry Pi, so Ubuntu Raspberry Pi ARM, and Windows 10 IoT Core.
Wait a second. We have Raspberry Pi. When did this happen?
Like
I knew that we had it, but we have official.
Weeks ago. Like, no. Hang on. John showed this.
Yeah.
I talked about it.
What's that, Steve?
Steve Desmond.
Steve Desmond. Steve.
Yeah. So the community has been working along with Samsung and .NET, the .NET team.
I know about that, right?
Samsung,
I know what
they now produce builds. So if you check in to Core CLR or Core FX, you can now get a zip after the build runs.
But it's on Steve Desmond's blog.
He wrote a blog post about the fact that it is now.
Okay, so this is the thing. Here's Steve's stuff. The last one is from February. It's still at like Steve's GitHub.
No. There's an official one now. As in, like, my understanding is our build servers now produce one, and you can go pick it up.
If there was, I would hope that Steve would actually.
I thought his blog post did point to that.
Point to it.
Am I
Steve,
making things up now?
Update your thing.
I thought that was what we were doing now. So it is not officially supported.
Sure.
But we have done the work to unblock enthusiasts who want to be able to grab builds and run them. Now, it's not the SDK. It is just the runtime.
Right. You have to build it and then push it
over. You have to build the app as a portable app in one location and then copy it to your Pi, and then you'll be able to execute it there.
Right. It sounds to me like, and maybe Steve's watching, or I will bug Steve. If it's official, it all looks about a month or two old, and that's the latest blog post he's got. So maybe. Okay, but
I'm lying.
No,
which is also
that's fine. Also very possible. But just as we mentioned before, right? There's LTS version of .NET Core. There's current, and then there's hobbyist fun daily builds. This is a hobbyist fun daily builds situation.
Yep. Unblocked.
Right.
Cool.
Cool. Blah blah blah. Are wrapped projects still a thing?
No. Wrap was an abomination, and we killed it.
Okay, this individual has some, and now they feel
it never worked well.
It never worked.
It was one of the .NET Wrap was one of the reasons we decided to move back to CS Proj. Well, you'd never get Wrap to work well with Project JSON. It was the ability to reference from Project JSON to CS Proj.
Okay. The gentleman whose name I mispronounced told me how to pronounce it. Short. Sorry about that. Plans for enabling C# debugging on unsupported versions of Linux. He's got Ubuntu, but he's talking to an Arch and Tergos box and can't debug C# on either.
I don't know an exact answer, but I can tell you a couple things that are happening in the 2.0 timeframe. The Linux story is being drastically simplified. So rather than this massive graph of RIDs, these runtime identifiers that you need to know ahead of time to get the correct assets and to build for, we will have a Linux generic RID or runtime identifier, which will work on many, many, many places. When you install on a Mac and on something like an Ubuntu box, the intent now is that rather than having to have prereqs on the machine that will be required before you can use .NET Core, you'll just be able to like unzip .NET Core 2 and then run it. Like it'll include everything required to run as a developer without you having to get OpenSSL from Homebrew, like you have to do on a Mac today, for example. So those things are happening. In terms of debugging, my understanding is we make PDBs available for the framework for Linux available as a zip right now. How useful they are is a little, our story is a little immature here at the moment, and that's one of the things that we're working to clean up in the 2.0 wave is our ability to do diagnostics, profiling, and debugging on platforms other than Windows. Because obviously the Windows story is very, very mature because it's where we've been forever. And the debugging and profiling story on other platforms is new. So we have a pretty good story inside VS Code, but other things require a bunch of work. We don't publish PDBs for the ASP.NET Core packages right now. It's something that we're looking to fix as well. But it turns out PDBs are incredibly complicated and there's more than one type. In fact, there's about 6 different types, and every functionality, depending on what tool you're using to debug or what thing is doing profiling, whatever, you need a different type of PDB. So that's one of the things we're working through right now to try and improve for 2.0.
All right. Someone says, last I checked, app domains were partially implemented.
Let me be very clear. So as part of Net Standard 2, some aspects of the app domain API are returning. So the app domain type will return in Net Standard 2. However, you will not be able to create app domains. The reason the type is returning is because there are other functions on the type that are incredibly useful, like global catching of exceptions, listing of modules that are loaded. These things really don't require there to be an app domain. It's just that is where the API exists today in .NET Framework and Mono and thus other platforms.
Right,
and so
right.
it was
It
brought
makes
over.
a lot of assumptions, right?
It makes a lot of assumptions. So, but .NET Core, let me be clear, .NET Core is not getting the ability to create an app domain as a unit of isolation, right? That is not coming back. However, the app domain API that deals with other aspects is coming back, so you will be able to do things like global exception handling and things like that on .NET Core 2.
Shiny.
Shiny.
Gentleman is saying he's doing a final university project, wants to use .NET Core. Should he use Angular or Angular 2? I was told by the Angular committers to use the latest version of Angular.
And they say don't even say Angular 2 now. It's just Angular. Isn't that
Angular?
Angular forever.
Angular forever.
Angular.io you should use,
Yep.
Almir. What about code coverage? MS builds, Microsoft, the bug on GitHub, Microsoft's NuGet package is not working. And the issue was code coverage as a feature in the near future would be great.
I don't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about that. Chris Bergmeister, email me about the code coverage thing and I will figure it out.
We will get you in touch with the right tooling, folks.
We'll check it out. And Fode Zaka from Nairobi mentioned that there's an Angular template for ASP.NET Core. If you go and Google for Hanselman ASP.NET Angular, you'll get all the details on how the Angular stuff that Steve
There's
Sanders
more than one,
did.
actually. So I believe the Angular team themselves have created one.
Ah, even better. That's
and then
great.
Steve, the great Steve Sanderson, who is here with us at the moment,
Steve
actually. He's in
Sanderson.
the room next door.
Is he really?
He's visiting us this week.
Oh, we should bring him in to visit. Go get him.
I have to go to a
We
different
need
meeting. I
more
have to find
bald
one.
people.
And more bald middle-aged white men. We have the whole ASP.NET SPA services thing, which we've talked about previously on the show, which is now released, that I encourage people to look at. If you are using ASP.NET Core and Angular, I strongly encourage you to look at the SPA services stuff.
Right. When are we going to have a template for ASP.NET Core web APIs with individual authentication out of the box? I don't think
probably never.
Oh, why? I mean, you can
because so
auth. It just needs to be implemented in one of the myriad RESTful ways.
No. Yeah, that's the key. Like when you're doing auth for APIs, it's a very different concern than doing auth for browser.
Right. It's not pop a dialog auth. It's
not load an HTML page and sign in, right? Or bounce you, redirect the browser to the twitter.com and sign you in that way. You need JOT tokens, or you need some other token issuing server. We didn't have one of those in ASP.NET Core 1X. The identity server guys, Dominic and Brock, shipped Identity Server 4 with support for .NET Core a few months ago. For ASP.NET Core 2, we are doing something. around identity services and a sort of a server for issuing tokens. We are sort of doing a change with how identity works by default in the templates, thus expressly with the goal that it makes it easier to move from the default sort of local auth to, oh, now I want to move my app to Azure and use the Azure B2C auth or any other OpenID Connect based endpoint, essentially. Today, that's effectively a re-architecture of your app, right? If you've started out with individual auth, where you're literally just using forms-based auth in your app, and then you decide later on, once you have users, that you want to go and auth via some random OpenID Connect endpoint, or not random, like one that you choose, you're kind of on your own. Like there's no way to move. You have to kind of just do file new completely and then figure out how to do that porting. We're trying to at least mitigate that slightly in the next version by making that from the get-go, all apps will be authenticated via OpenID Connect. It's just that endpoint might be inside yourself, if that makes sense, right? So that your app will always be authenticating by way of issuing tokens, so that it's easy in the future just to point that token service somewhere else, so that you could migrate an app from being on-prem, doing on-prem auth, to something that does federated auth using an OpenID Connect endpoint. So that is coming as part of the 2.0 wave. So it's relevant. Maybe when we do that, we'll end up having a web API template that does individual auth, because now we'll actually have the token server stuff required to do API auth inside the framework, which we didn't when we shipped 1X.
Okay. There's too many. We're not going to be able to hit all these. They're just going.
No, I literally have to go, so I've got like 1 minute or 2 minutes.
Looking for more. These are so good. Can you copy paste out of this iframe, John, and we'll try to put some of these together?
Yeah.
There's so many good questions, and we're not going to be able to do them all. Why don't we do the last? John, Damian, why don't you go? John, why don't you share your community links while Damian is released?
I will do that. Awesome.
Damian, thank you. Actually, do this. Half of a zoom out. We'll go to John. We'll then finish the zoom out on our
Zooming
own.
out right now. Zooming out.
Damian's leaving. He's
I am leaving.
blurry. His video sucks. Okay, bye. John.
All right.
Oh, look at that.
Tracking shot. Do we do that? Yes. Okay. So quick community links. First one, this one's kind of neat. This is the Google Cloud Platform announcing beta support for ASP.NET Core. So they made a bunch of announcements of stuff they're supporting, and one of those is ASP.NET Core. Always good to see ASP.NET everywhere.
Yep.
So Powell here talking about ASP.NET Core web API performance, and he just was running into what he thought was slow performance, and he's got a core server on one end and HTTP client on the other end, and he just figured it out. So he did some performance testing using some different things. What he found out was that there was some significant changes based on setting things like buffer sizes, and so that was where it was at. His initial, he was suspecting that it was going to be Kestrel that was slowing it down, and he found out that wasn't really the case, that it was more on the client and what sort of things he was setting as buffer sizes. Two from Hisham here. So one is convention-based application startup.
Hisham needs to start paying us, because his stuff, he's making us all look bad, frankly. His blogs are so good and so consistent.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So this one's really cool. Here, you know how you see this in your code where you say, if I'm in development, then do this. If I'm in this, if I'm in production, then use this. So he set up a thing with conventions to just create a startup development, right? And so it's going to scan and pull in startups based on whichever environment you're running in. So nice kind of convention approach.
That's good stuff.
And then he shouted out to a presentation that Sebastian made at the Orchard conference about YesSQL. So YesSQL is this it's a joke on NoSQL. It also includes, so it's a document database that also includes SQL support. And so, he posted the link to Sebastian's presentation at the Orchard Harvest event. All right, here is a really cool series that's starting up. This is Steve Gordon, MVC Anatomy. So this is a very beefy post, and I'm looking forward to the rest in the series. This is going into looking at the internals. So it's like, okay, what happens when we add in MVC Core? And then he digs way into deep stuff like application part manager and discover assembly parts. And this kind of This is one of those kind of meaty ones where you want to go, grab a cup of coffee or tea and sit back and maybe draw some diagrams. But there's some really slick stuff here, and I imagine this is going to be really helpful if you're like diagnosing or really, want to create some in-depth overrides or stuff like that. So very cool. We talked about an auditing one last week, and so this is a cool one from Fayaz, pointing out how to do auditing using EF Core shadow properties. So it's talking about using those shadow properties to track for things like saving changes.
What is a shadow property?
So that is a feature on EF Core where you can put it on your model and you can do some additional things where it's a property that is not saved to the database. But other stuff happens with it, right? So it's
I see. It's along for the ride. It's been spot welded onto the thing.
Exactly. Yep.
Meta property.
Yep.
But it's cooler to say shadow.
It definitely is. Okay, so this is from Meher, and this is talking about Oracle support. So he kind of summarizes what Oracle announced. ODP.net is the Oracle data provider for .NET, so he talks about where that's at.
It does appear that this is not as amazing an announcement as one would initially think, because you go in there and they're like, well, we're really kind of waiting for 2, is kind of what they're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, his summary is kind of nice and dissecting all that and saying, here, he's got it in bullet points. But basically, the .NET Core support end of 2017, and then EF and ASP Core post 2017. But it's nice to even see, like, yes, they're committed to it, and that, here's where it's going. Because as Meher points out in here, there's quite a lot of interest in it. This is pretty highly voted there. So, and you can continue to vote for this, right? So you can go out to vote for this on their site. All right, Scott with a nice performance tip on pre-compiling MVC views, and I like his TLDR at the top where he shows exactly how to implement that. So that's something we've got implemented like on live.asp.net. This is just a quick, nice little walkthrough on how to do that.
Right, and zoom in a little bit on that one, because this has been done for a bit. This is important. Your screen's a little blurry, but yes.
Well, that's because I'm zooming. It's a screenshot of
oh, I see. It's a screenshot. There you go. Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's not as hard as you think, and with the new CS projects being clean, it's pretty nice.
Yep, and then he has a link over to a Git commit that does that exactly. So. Cool. Andrew Locke. So here he walks through, he's been doing a lot of stuff with middleware, and here he talks about, like, he got a request to update his middleware package or packages in his middleware to .NET Core packages to 1.1. And so he goes through his thinking about, like, well, should I do it? Which LTS support or version should I support and target? And then he gets really kind of deep into, like, well, what are the costs and what, who am I keeping out, et cetera. So it's nice kind of, he goes through his thought process, and he ends up, I believe, where he said he is continuing on the current. But he talks about, here's different things you'd want to consider for that. So specifically, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is for middleware that he's releasing. So something for middleware authors to think about.
Okay.
2 last quick ones. These are both front-end related, Angular 2. So this is Rick Strahl has updated his. This is his Angular 2 sample app, which is this album viewer. So here it's a real, kind of function.
This is really good. I just on a personal note, reading Rick Strahl's code is just a joy. Just a great developer. His samples are fantastic. He does all this stuff. He's a consultant, but I mean, I'm always impressed with his stuff. So this is definitely worth looking at.
Top quality. Yep. And speaking of amazing quality, here's some more. So this is .NET New Angular to Azure, and and with Docker, and this is all using the CLI. So what I saw this, I thought this was neat, and somebody pointed out that there are exactly 0 screenshots. This is all CLI. There's no clicking anywhere through this entire thing. So here he goes through CLI based, creating .NET New, adding those SPA templates, creating a new Angular app, and then adding in Docker support and pushing to Azure again with CLI. So start to finish, all command line. And again, benefits of CLI, some people just like to work in the CLI, but it's also something you can automate, right? So anything you can do just by typing, you can automate. And I'm done.
Brilliant. Cool. Looking at the comments flying by.
I'm trying to copy them real quick.
Yeah, if you can just copy paste those because they're going to disappear. We'll try to do more. What did you all think about the? Now, this thing is there's not enough time in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that other than the fact we need 2 hours for questions, we should probably have one show a month where we do this kind of Q&A.
So, and with that question to the community here, I'd like to propose maybe we do something where people throw out a bunch of questions and we vote them up and down.
If you can figure out a way to do that, like,
yeah,
in a clear way.
Yep, I will take that. Maybe it's okay. Yep.
I would not know. We need some software for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do it.
Can you write that? Maybe call it.
I will do it. It's
read
done.
Read it.
Get push. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, just do it on Reddit.
Someone just said that Raziar says he's glad that I'm giving nearly as much time to the community stand-up as I gave to my new console. Because Zelda's over here calling my name. Did you guys see that I actually have to use the children's parental controls to prevent myself from doing this? This is important here. Chris here is saying, would it be possible to start the show earlier? So to be clear, we alternate between the 4 o'clock start, or 3:45 Pacific, and the 10 o'clock. That gives us an 8-hour spread by which we can hit most time zones. It's going to always suck for somebody. So, Chris, hopefully next week it will be better for you. Cool. All right. I guess we will do I'm not going to do the dramatic zoom out, but I will go like this and go backwards.
Okay.
So,
but how will you hang up? Yeah,
I have no way to zoom. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to just stop then. So bye, everyone.
Okay.